and it therefore needs an international inquiry into the circumstances surrounding it. In the last hour or so, President Sarkozy of France has demanded an international inquiry. The British government has asked for an international inquiry. The United Nations Secretary General has asked for an international inquiry, and Israel has completely refused. And let me tell you why they have refused. Because any international inquiry, any independent inquiry, would demonstrate that Israel is guilty of an act of international piracy and an act of mass murder against civilian aid workers who have traveled thousands of miles in order to deliver humanitarian assistance to the people under siege in Gaza. Any independent inquiry would demonstrate that beyond peradventure, and that's the reason that Israel will not agree to one. However, let me tell you that the Emir of Qatar, God bless him, has yesterday undertaken to pay for every legal action by every member of the flotilla everywhere in the world for the compensation that we demand. And that compensation will run into billions of dollars. We have at least 9 martyred dead. I say at least because we still have several people missing and unaccounted for. After all this time, Israel still refuses to give a full accounting for the people who were on board the ship and the people who were in their dungeons in the Negev desert. We'll be suing on behalf of the families for the martyred dead. We'll be suing on behalf of the injured and wounded for the damages which they have sustained. And we'll be suing for the $20 million worth of aid which we sent to Gaza and which has been stolen by the criminal state of Israel. And we'll be suing for personal remedy. Can you believe that the prisoners left the jail in Negev having had almost everything they owned stolen by the guards? Cash, clothes, computers, mobile telephones, passports. And we know what Israel does with stolen passports. We will be in the world until we get justice. And we're able to do so thanks to His Highness the Emir of Qatar. And I thank him here now for the airways in Washington, D.C. But that's not all. These shots which fired were heard all over the world. They have changed everything, utterly. The whole world has risen up in revulsion against this great crime. And no matter how many Goebbelian lies Mark Regev and the other professional liars of the IDF and the Netanyahu gang, no matter how many lies they tell, the truth is already out there. The dead were all our dead. There were no weapons on the Marmara except the weapons brought there illegally in international waters by the so-called Israel Defense Force. There was no Al-Qaeda on board. There were no terrorists on board. There was only humanitarian aid and those dedicated to delivering it, some of whom had to lose their lives as a result of this gangsterism. And we believe, and I'm sure you share this view even in America, that this is a turning point. This is a moment when Israel has finally spent every last cent of its political credibility. And amongst the wreckage of the flotilla on the Mediterranean Sea lies Israel's last claim to be a civilized member of the international community. It is the case that the South African massacre at Soweto in the 1980s marked the beginning of the end of apartheid South Africa. And I honestly believe that the massacre on board the Marmara in the Mediterranean Sea marks the beginning of the end of the racist tribe. There can be no peace between truth and falsehood. There can be no peace between right and wrong. There can be no peace between justice and injustice. There can be no peace between the occupied and the occupier. There can be only eternal struggle between them. And that struggle must continue until justice has prevailed and freedom has been won. And you are a part of that struggle, as am I, and we have to press home our advantage now. And we have to make sure that this is a turning point, that these martyrs' blood were not shed in vain. And that requires a move now from us. And I can announce to you in Washington that on Sunday, the 12th of September, right after Ramadan, 2 new mighty convoys will set forth for Gaza, one by land and one by sea. One convoy will leave London on the 12th of September. It will drive through Europe to Turkey and Syria and Jordan and go through the gates of Rafah on exactly the same day as a convoy, not of 6 ships this time, but 60 ships from all over the world. I suppose this is a kind of notice to the governments of the world who have now said that this siege on Gaza must end. Even the government of the United States of America has described the siege as unsustainable. The British government have called for it to be lifted, as have the United Nations and governments all over the world. Well, they better put their words into action. They better make sure that the siege is lifted before we get there. Because if we get there and the siege is still in place, then Israel is going to have a very difficult job containing the size of fleet and convoy that we are going to send. And if they visit upon us the kind of horrific violence they visited upon the Marmara, but this time multiplied by 10, then if the world thinks it has a problem now in the Middle East, it's going to have one hell of a problem when we arrive with the largest humanitarian aid conflict. You will do what you can to join us. If not to join us, then to help us. You can come to our Summer University of Palestine in Lebanon on the 25th of July to meet the heroes of the Marmara, to meet the leaders of the flotilla, and to discuss the way forward, to discuss Palestine past, present, and future. Go to vivapalestina.org, click on Arabia, and you'll see all about it. I hope that you will join us when we leave London and we leave the Mediterranean simultaneously on the 12th of September. And if you can't, I hope you will contribute in whatever way you can. Lastly,